need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Whose car are we gonna take?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Regular or Menthol podcast where we discuss kino movies. My name is Tate, and my co-host here is Chris.
Hello, everybody.
You know, we give a little thoughts on the movie, our experience watching the movie. Then we discuss specific scenes that we liked, followed up with a little kino rating. We got a lot of stuff to cover in this movie because it's chock full of great scenes. So we'll get right into it. The movie for this episode is The Town.
The Town.
Starring Ben Affleck.
Written,
Jeremy Renner.
Directed, and lead acted by Ben Affleck.
Powerful.
Right?
The Town came out in 2010, which,
oh my God,
if you
dude.
can believe it, is actually 15 years ago.
Jesus.
Which is extremely depressing to me.
Well, what's this movie about?
Oh, this movie, let me tell you. This movie, The Town, it's the leader of a group of South Boston bank robbers decides to start dating the bank manager of a bank he just robbed because it turns out she's hot.
Southies.
So through falling in love, he decides he wants to stop doing heists, but gets bullied by a local florist into doing one final score at Fenway Park.
The socks.
So Chris,
The socks.
tell me about the first time you saw this movie.
First time I saw this movie was in 2010 in the theaters. This was a theater-worthy movie. I took a girl on a date at the time, and it turns out I was so invested in the movie that I didn't pay attention to the girl. So all I could talk about afterwards was how cool the movie was. Yeah, great movie. I mean,
Did she notice that?
probably. I mean, what about you?
Well, the first time I saw this, I didn't see this in the movie theater. I'm pretty sure I saw it when it came out on DVD.
Mhm.
And I think I must have, rented it at some point because rentals, I can't remember if rentals were still a thing at that point or I just watched it online. It was that gray area where,
Oh, yeah, I remember.
the same level that you and I are into The Town,
Mm-hmm.
where we quote stuff all day while we're working, right?
Yep.
My one friend Grady and I were same level that we're into. We had that, we shared that same love of The Town.
Really? I didn't know
When
this
this-
about you.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know you were, okay. I knew you liked the movie. I didn't realize you were that, far into it.
Well, me and him were both super into Point Break, and I feel as if, this movie is the spiritual successor to Point Break.
And if you don't know it, folks, this is Tate's favorite movie of all time.
I'm a big Point Break guy for sure.
We'll do an episode on it down the road.
But this is this is what I call one of the last bro movies.
What do you
You
mean
can
by
you can sit down, like you and I could sit down and watch this. We are going to sit down and jot down how you and I are going to pull off a heist together. You can tell your friend that you're watching with, hey, if you ever need to hurt some people, I'm your guy. Whose car
are we going to take?
whose car are we going to take? It's that movie you could sit down with your friend and watch and kind of just enjoy and it not be weird.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this movie, because this movie has that same undercurrent of friendship along with robbing banks that Point Break does.
It's a good point. I never really thought about it that way. It's like kind of that same, I don't know if it's really the same, juxtaposition between those characters of Affleck and Renner as it is with Keanu and
The
what's his name?
Sways.
Swayze. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting, only because it has bank robberies as the common denominator.
Mm-hmm. So, in this movie, who would you say, you're watching this movie, you're watching the characters, you're thinking to yourself, which one of these guys is literally me?
The florist. No, I would say, Ben Affleck, he's the guy everyone wants to be, right? He's the cool guy. That's how he at least wrote himself in the movie. I guess you could say he's the one I followed the most in the movie. How about you?
I'm gonna go with Joe Flipperhead. No, my guy is Desmond Eldon, the guy on the crew, because I just see him. He works for Vericom. He's which is the made-up Verizon company in the movie, and he uses that as his cover to get into the alarm systems and heists and stuff. I could see myself doing that just 5 years ahead of time, getting a job just so I can figure out the technology involved to use it on a heist years down the line.
I'll add that John Hamm's character, FBI, a secondary character, because I mean we'll talk about his conversations with our interactions with Ben Affleck, which are great, but I'd say that's a secondary one.
Now we're gonna refer to him as FBI in this movie, and I went back. I think they mention his actual name briefly once.
Right. I'll look it up, but what is it? It's
it's like very briefly they mention it, and that's it.
IMDb says John Hamm is in fact FBI Special Agent Adam Frawley.
Yeah, like, do you remember them saying that? Because I don't.
No, he's just FBI.
We'll talk. Yeah, we'll refer to him as FBI from here on out. But we'll just jump right in. First scene here. It's right when it starts up, and it's Ben Affleck giving a voiceover, and he's in the back of a van planning a robbery that they're going to do on a armored car guy that's going into a bank, and they go and rob. They wind up robbing both of them, wearing these Grim Reaper masks.
Driver's name is Arthur Shea. Arthur Shea. Yeah, it just punches you in the face with this like thick Boston accent. As he's describing, he's kind of going through what they're gonna do, or the description of the heist. Plan. Yeah, right, right. Yeah. Go ahead.
When this scene's actually, for me, it's like it hits you with this bit of nostalgia, because I think it's McGlonesy. He has this line. He's like, "Hand over your Blackberries," and who remembers what Blackberries are? There's a 2-year stretch. Let's say 2009.
I think you have to be at minimum 34 years old currently to know what a Blackberry is, or have even seen one.
I'm not even sure what they were, like a cell phone, but didn't include the phone part.
Yeah, it was. I think it had texts. It was a text. It had like a calendar thing or something. Yeah, I forget, where it just was more efficient. It was the business phone. It's like, hey man, I'm a big deal. I got a Blackberry. Right. I just remember it was kino for like a year, and like you were elite if you had one.
It took over cell phones. Yeah. For like a year, where people were like refer to their thing as their Blackberry.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny.
It was flip phones.
Right. When you think about it, think about back then, there was probably, you walk into a Verizon and there might be only a few companies that make them, but there's dozens and dozens of different styles and variations of cell phones that you could get. But to your point, it's like nowadays, hey, I have an iPhone. Back then it was like the branding was, hey, I got a Blackberry.
Right.
But there was 50 other phones you could have had. It was like Boost Mobile, the chirping one, Razor, Blackberry.
Razor.
Yeah.
I had a Razor.
There's a bunch of different ones, but it's just, I guess that's why it was written into the movie, because it was like peak 2010 Blackberries were the thing.
The thing.
I got a Blackberry.
And then after that, iPhones at this time were still new. They came out in 2008. They were still new, kind of a niche thing. And then after that kind of year period, iPhones became so ubiquitous that everyone just got one of them, and they started calling it cell phones again.
Well, it's funny, to your point. It's like, why didn't Glones just say, everyone hand over your phones? He's like, everyone hand over your Blackberries. And it just doesn't it sounds so insane when he says it, but Glones.
In the year 2025, it jumps out at me as sounding very strange. And it's a little bit of just that 2010 nostalgia.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
everyone hand over your iPhones. No, but it's cool. What's a cool part of this scene was that caught me was Claire is on the ground and you can see it zooms in on her foot, and she kicks the silent alarm. She looks up, and there's one of these guys in a mask. It's looking in her direction, but you can't tell because the eyes are hollowed out. So you can't tell if it's looking at her or not, right? So you get a second of kind of pause. You're like, okay, what's going on here? When in fact, it turns out to be Ben Affleck's character. But it's kind of given a little bit of foreshadowing on how he handles situations as opposed to Jeremy Renner. Because 5 seconds later, Renner's like bashing the assistant manager's head in with the butt of his gun. Whereas it's further fleshing out, or at least starting to write his character, how Affleck is this cool, calm guy. He knows that if he makes a big deal about this, it's only going to make things worse, right? Mm-hmm. Because they end up 3 seconds later saying, silent alarm. Like, who pushed it? That's when I think Renner bashed the guy's head in. But the point being is, it's saying that Affleck's character is cool, calm, and collected. And he just can think, he has foresight and knows that, well, obviously Jem, Renner's character, will just pop off anyway. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
He's not going to take unnecessary risks.
Correct.
He's not going to do unforced errors
right.
of adding extreme assault to your charges
right.
if you got arrested.
Yeah.
Right?
I think there's multiple times in this movie
more years
happens. Yeah, I think there's multiple times in this movie we'll talk about when that happens, where it's like, you're just tacking on more time, bud. Why are you trying to do that? Well, it's right after this happens, they kidnap her. And when they all group back up afterwards, he's talking about how he has her license and he's going to take care of it. And then Affleck says something like, well, taking her for a ride wasn't a smart choice. But yeah, it's interesting concept.
After the heist, it's just something that jumped out at me. After the heist, Ben Affleck is walking back to the meetup spot,
mm-hmm.
and it's just like something about his gait, the way he's walking. It looks so strange to me in this movie. It's some kind of mix of him being hunched over and carrying bags to look bigger, that kind of thing, like carrying suitcases.
Why is he trying to look bigger? I thought he was already jacked.
Very
movie.
I don't know.
Are you saying that it's not consistent throughout the movie?
No, I'm saying it is. I'm saying it's not consistent with Ben Affleck.
Right,
I think it's something that he did for the movie, which sounds crazy. Am I nuts? We're gonna have to go back and look at Ben Affleck.
No, you're not, because he puts his like hands in his pockets and he's like, kind of like just like hunched over, and it's just I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. I did notice that. Yeah.
But does Ben Affleck do that in real life, or did he come up with this idea like this South Boston townie is hunched over all the time for some quirk of the character? Don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd have to go back and look at it. Another funny thing is, like, over the top is clearly the Boston accents. Because I don't know which actors, are from Boston aside from Affleck himself, but you have the other FBI agent, which we'll talk about in a bit. It's I guess he's kind of a townie up from Boston, gets in with the FBI, and now he's coming back to crack this case or whatever. They all think he's, a traitor.
Dino.
That's what it is. Dino, right. Dino's like, our guys waited for the time lock to expire. Then open sesame. Like, it's just over the top, hilarious, but yeah, we'll touch on Dino a little bit later.
I just I had to add this in, just a little movie guns break. I have to add my 2 cents on the guns in this movie. Is just incredible.
There we go.
I love the guns in this movie, and it's because there's an extremely diverse set of weapons which the squad uses. I think this leads to their slightly amateurish nature of this crew. All these guys are lifers. They're not ex-military guys. So
lifers. What do you mean by that?
Well, you tell me. It's a townie, basically, that someone that lives their whole life in the town and never leaves.
They're destined to never
leave.
Hey, you have those lifers everywhere.
But, you got everything from HK UMPs, carry handle ARs, FN fouls, and then, in the last scene, Jim has a Tech 9 that he uses. But, you know, if I was pulling heists, I would think everyone on the squad has to have the same weapon,
Right.
and everyone has to have the same caliber, so that you could just interchange magazines with everyone. If you had to get in a shootout and you were running low on ammo, you could just grab a magazine from your buddy or something like that.
That makes the most sense. But what if the idea is these guys have their own, they're so used to doing heists, this is their preference. I don't know if your preference can be a Tech 9, but like you said, we're holding court in the street.
Well, that's interesting. Like, each guy brings their own guns.
Yeah, I mean, what if that's part of the writing? It's like, okay, it would be more efficient to have, you know, the same caliber and roughly the same guns, but each of these guys is so used to doing these heists that they've done enough.
They're more comfortable.
I'm more comfortable with my Tech 9, right?
Right. The Tech 9, he has it on a like under his coat,
right?
So it's not visible in the last scene. So it does make like logical sense why you would have a Tech 9.
It makes sense the way it conforms to his body under the coat, right? He just spins around and starts blasting.
But you know, you would think, because every guy in the last scene has a different caliber that they're using, which is fascinating to me.
It's kind of odd.
But then also there's the idea of, if you have a bunch of criminals, like, I don't know what it takes to get fully automatic weapons anonymously and buy them on the black market. So maybe they can only get this gun that's available or this gun that's available. They're not really looking to be super tactical in that sense. They're like, let me just get what I can get. Right?
Makes sense.
In any event, the idea of what guns the guys use, is Ben Affleck making that into the character? Is he going that far? Because Michael Mann would. Hard to say.
But to your point, it would make sense, you know, efficiency-wise in a heist where you have the same calibers. So that way one guy gets stranded, you know, another guy has ammunition. He can use it, you know?
You know, the next scene, they have all these deleted scenes that we watched. I mean, we watched the movie, and I didn't even know that these scenes existed. I thought it was a 2 hour 5 minute movie. But
I think theatrical is 2 hours and 5 minutes, and with the deleted scenes, it's what, 240, something like that.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how you felt, but I thought the deleted scenes added a lot and were pretty good.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that Ben Affleck shot a 4 hour movie.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. And he had to cut it down, and he took out like all this crazy stuff.
Oh my God.
But some of them are just like, they're kind of redundant. Like, for instance, they go take the cash from the bank robbery and buy a giant duffel bag of weed from this guy who I guess he's sick or whatever. He's this old guy that's sick, but it's just him and Ben Affleck and Jim just sitting there on a couch, just kind of shooting the shit while this dude's in the other room with a duffel bag of weed. And you're like, where is this go? And they're washing the money.
Yeah. Because then they go to what, the strip club or something after that? They
go to strip club, the casino, and wash it that way. So it's somewhat redundant, but it adds like just a touch of extra like conversation between the two where you're like, I kind of like this scene.
I guess it builds the characters. Because they do say some stuff. It shows the guy was like, I don't know, was he living with his wife or his mom?
Yeah,
I don't know, but it's to your point. It kind of fleshes out the characters, shows, hey, they're going and washing the money, obviously. So yeah, it's redundant, but I guess, you know, I mean,
I'm not gonna lie to you. I want to see the 4 hour cut.
I was gonna say he had to cut it down for 4 hours, did he not?
Yeah. And then I guess they introduced the florist here at this part.
This is great. One thing that caught me was they introduced the florist. What's that guy's name? Do you remember? He died years ago. The
Peter Postwaite or something.
Yeah, he's great. He's in some stuff. Anyway, so they introduced the florist, and basically Jem and Doug walk up to him, only to be stopped by his crony henchman, Rusty. So you see, Jem shakes Rusty's hand, and then Doug, Affleck's character, keeps his hands in his pockets. So they don't shake hands. He doesn't shake hands with Rusty. It's foreshadowing that they're not on good terms. Then Jem gives the money that they got to the florist, shakes his hand, and then the florist looks up and kind of shakes the money at Affleck, kind of gives him like a nod. And then as they're walking away, Rusty grabs Jem's other hand, kind of like half shakes it. And then Affleck just about faces and walks away. So it's like pretty cool because you find out later when, he shoots Rusty in the head, and then him and the florist had this shootout, that there was bad blood to begin with, a little foreshadowing. But it's a cool scene.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
It does crack me up. Ben Affleck, they're setting up the fact that he is already over this life and he's leaving by showing him being dissatisfied with all this stuff that they're doing. Like they're going to the strip club. He's getting a lap dance at the strip club, and his face, they actually have a shot where his face is like, I'm so over this nonsense.
God.
Yeah. And he is, you find out later, sober in the movie. He gave up drinking.
Yeah,
and
he orders like
other drugs too.
Yeah, he orders like a cranberry juice when they go out or something, and they talk about it later how he's put the life behind him. And Renner says something about how he thinks he's better than everyone, cueing the cringe line where he's like, "That's right, I'm better than everyone out in this town, huh?" But anyway, go ahead.
And I think to myself, like, I quit drinking. Is that what I sound like? Is that what I look like? Do I look like some depressed mope?
Not that I can remember or recall. No, it's a good catch because he does. It's kind of, he oversells it, right? I think
a little bit, a little touch of overselling it, where you're like, why is this guy not? He goes to the strip club. He goes to the casino. Why is he so pissed off?
He's not satisfied with lifestyle. He's putting this whole town in his rear view.
He's done being a criminal and a gangster. He just wants to live his life. Next scene, I mean, it really continues right on. Doug wakes up and goes to an AA meeting, which I thought it was kind of
Before we get into that, though, on a side note, they go to this bar, right?
Oh, yeah.
He gets the cranberry juice. This is where they introduce Blake Lively's character, which I guess is like an ex-girlfriend of his, but is also Jeremy Renner's sister. And this bar, whoever scouted this out, like, deserves, a handshake, because it's the most Boston bar that you can find, right? You can just tell it's like a corner bar. It's locals only, just a kind of vibe. Because they actually go back to this bar later in the movie. He meets Jem, and it just strikes me as like this old dingy corner bar, locals only, and it's just
small table in the corner.
It's just hilarious. I just love it.
Yeah,
but yeah. Anyway,
and they meet her. He meets her, and he's already over this life.
Yeah, and that's
she's gonna mess with him by putting drugs in his drink, but just pretensies.
Yeah, pretensies, right? No, but it's a good kind of piggyback onto what you just said, because it's like Blake Lively, right? She's too hot for this character that she plays. I mean, I heard that I remember hearing about how they cast her and like she crushed it, so they fell in love with her, whatever. But she's supposed to be this like lifer who is like this druggie, has this kid with another guy, and Ben's, I think she's just a little too hot for this character.
She's certainly hot, and then Dougie sees her at the bar, and they're talking, and even though she's kind of pissing him off, she's still hot.
At the end of the day.
So I guess, because it leads into him another exasperated face of being like over this life, because they bang at his apartment.
Right.
And she gets up and leaves like almost immediately, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm just so over this."
And
what am I doing?
Yeah, it's a good point. He gives this face where he's just like breathing for like a minute. It's a little bit too long, and it's like he's like all pissed off. It's like, yeah, but it's a good sell though. It's like, all right, I'm done with this whole life.
And then
talk to me about
this. Gets up the next day.
Talk to me about this AA scene.
yeah, it gets up the next day. He's like, I gotta get rid of these nonsense that I'm dealing with. I know how I'll do it. I'll head to AA. But it is a pretty accurate scene from my experience. I'm a psychotic alcoholic myself, and I've been to a bunch of AA meetings, and a lot of the time you get some really intense stories from people that are being brutally honest.
Yeah.
One of the only places in the world that I've seen where you can just get such intense honesty from people, just out of nowhere. You don't know these people; they're just out. You got a room of people that you don't know, and it's just some dude just bearing his soul. Like it's wild. It's pretty accurate in this movie.
This what always cracks me up is I remember I forgot about this scene, and then it's some guy in the movie just getting up and being brutally honest, and you can just tell right away that this isn't an actor. This is some local townie lifer that they casted for this, and I think they do this a bunch. They did this in Gone Baby Gone. Casey Affleck, that movie, with the locals when the little girl gets kidnapped. And they just do this where they put locals into the movie. I feel like I could be wrong on that, but it just kind of strikes me as that.
He might even be a local actual AA guy.
Quite possibly.
You know what I mean? Like, that's how realistic it seemed.
Yeah.
And so like the next scene that is kind of wild is Ben Affleck grabs the license from Jim, and he takes it upon himself to follow the bank manager and do a little surveillance,
little recon.
And like, I always just found it funny that Ben Affleck, this 6'2", like giant human being, big guy, who looks very like an attractive guy, who's a huge dude, he's just gonna be sneaking around. That is true. Fair enough. But is this he's supposed to be well versed in tailing people? How's this actually work? I imagine like Ben Affleck, he'd have a hard time following people around, even if he wasn't famous.
Right.
He's already he's still a good looking dude.
He just stands out.
Yeah. Like if you saw, like, I don't know how it works because I seem like I feel like I'm just some average guy. However, ladies and gentlemen, we actually have a 6'2" Chad in Chris. I have to ask you, Chris, how have you ever had any trouble going in conspicuous mode in public?
Yeah, I don't ever tail people inconspicuously. It's not on my normal repertoire, but I don't know, man. I don't know if I've ever tried to not be seen, like maybe at a bar. Okay, yeah, this is true. If I see someone out, right? This has happened actually recently. Emma, I was like, hey, there's that person. And I kind of tried to oh God, I'm like zipping around the store. I'm like, okay, wait, I'm just kind of keeping tabs over here. I got to look this way. So, but yeah, I mean, my wife's 6'1", I'm 6'3", so we stand out a little bit, but I guess
you see that guy from high school.
Right. That lifer. But yeah, no, it would be a little bit difficult. So yeah, to your point, it is a little bit dumb to have Ben Affleck.
And it doesn't even work really because she walks right up to him. It's like, hey, you got any quarters?
Quarters.
I can't even do a Boston accent. I can only do like New Orleans accent.
You got a box of quarters.
She walks right up to him and sees him and is just like, hey, here's some dude, let me ask him. And then that starts the whole conversation and everything.
Yeah.
But it does crack me up that he's trying to creep around and follow her around.
That's Dougie.
Next scene, Doug goes on a date with the bank manager. This is incredible. This is a whole conversation. Claire asked Doug about what a toonie is.
Toonie.
And this is because she says, oh, some kids called me a toonie. And like, what is that? And Doug responds, it just means a yuppie, someone that's not from Charlestown. Now, we had a discussion with one of our coworkers back in the day about what a yuppie is, because she was from Port Richmond and she was saying that there's all these yuppies that live there now. I'm like, I don't know if you are on the same page as me, but I think that yuppies are like Gordon Gekko and Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, Wall Street people, real rich.
Yeah.
It stands for Young Urban Professional, which back in probably the 90s, it meant Wall Street people who like are moving into different areas of New York and gentrifying it.
Right.
But I guess now it could mean the bank manager or
Well, the
what
thing
I
about
described as hipsters.
we argue with our friend at work is there's an actual term for these people already, right? They're called hipsters.
They're called hipsters.
So they can't be yuppies and hipsters at the same time. In my opinion, folks, they can only be one of the two. So, yeah, I mean, I think it might just be a situation where the first, I guess, referenced yuppies segment or whatever was in something like American Psycho, right? Where it's the 80s, 90s, you know, these guys don't even have to work. It's the scene in American Psycho where Reese Witherspoon's like, Patrick, you don't even have to work. Your dad owns a company, right? Yeah. So it's like, I think it's that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, a yuppie, I don't know, man. I think what does Google say? It's a young urban professional, like you said.
I start thinking, is it more to do with wealth or is it more to do with gentrification?
That's a good point.
Right? Like the bank manager, Claire, is moving into Doug's low-income neighborhood.
It's a good point because they reference that later in the movie where, not later in the movie, but it's where Jem says, oh, she's like right down the block from me when he has her ID. They kind of get nervous because they're going to run into her, right? Mm-hmm. So it could be where they're moving into those areas and gentrifying them, right? So they're toonies.
Yeah. I don't know what an actual yuppie is, and now when he says this in the movie, it makes me second guess myself, and I don't like that.
Because you're so used, you believe that the true yuppie is Patrick Bateman.
Yeah, but I could be wrong. I'm open to being wrong.
Did they actually say the term yuppie in the movie?
Yeah. He says, "What's a toonie?" Or she says, "What's a toonie?" He says, "It's just a yuppie."
Mm. Yeah, you might be wrong, King. You might be wrong.
Yeah, I might be wrong on this. Yeah, I don't like being wrong though. And then you have Claire. It's just going out. I don't know if this is in the theatrical release. Going out on a date with Dougie, and then within 10 minutes screen time, FBI is taking her out on a date as well.
This is the dating montage that they have. For some reason, this movie just has a dating montage with Dougie, then FBI. For a lunch date, a very corporate lunch date, if you will. Talk to me about what's a corporate lunch date? What's a corporate dinner? I've heard you use this term before.
I'm gonna be honest with you. It was a term that our friend Matlock came up with, and I'm not even sure what it really means. And we just think it's the funniest thing that he came up with this term, and no one knows what it means.
It's
and
a corporate
he calls
dinner.
Everything corporate. But me and my friend Caveman started calling. Anytime we went out to dinner, we just started calling it like a corporate dinner. We really don't. Neither of us knows what it means at this point.
Well, they go on a corporate lunch date, right? And then a minute later, she goes on a second date with Doug.
Yeah,
I just thought it was kind of weird that this. I think they added this.
I think this is an added scene, and they cut out the parts where FBI is actually trying to date Claire, because in the original movie,
I think you're right. I think you're right.
I remember seeing it originally, and there was some undertones of him liking her, FBI liking Claire, and I was like, that's kind of weird and potentially inappropriate. Why is that even a thing in this movie? And it's probably because they cut out most of that storyline.
It's a good point. I'd have to look back at that, because I think when he first interviews her, FBI, he's kind of cold to her, and she's kind of like taken aback, right? If I recall correctly. So you don't really ever get that vibe that he likes her right away.
And then there's that scene later where he brings the envelope full of the suspects to kind of throw it in her face that Dougie's one of the suspects.
Yeah.
And she thinks that he's calling to go out on a date. They mentioned this in the theatrical release. And that's when I was originally watching it, I was like, what are they talking about? Why is there some sexual tension between these two? But it's probably because they just cut a bunch of that storyline out.
Yeah. Yeah.
next scene here, FBI agents, they get a they get a Vericom worker to look at a junction box and explain how someone would learn how to bypass an alarm from the junction box.
Mhm.
And I've always said that I like these random kind of extras in movies, and not even extras a lot of the times, like just actors that are real actors but get some extremely small role, and they decide, I'm coming to the set today and I'm killing it.
Crushing it.
I'm going way overboard on how I'm delivering my lines. And like I pick up on that. I'm like, look at this guy hitting a home run for this 2-line scene.
You think it's overacting?
A little bit, but like I appreciate it because the guy's like, I'm gonna try and become an actor, and like I have a role here with 2 lines, so I'm just gonna kill it.
But
and
still,
the
a little over
Vericom
the
guy, a little bit. I mean, it's a bit much, but I appreciate it. The Vericom guy, he's like this fat dude that looks like a fat Boston guy that would work at a phone company running lines, and he's like making this joke, like, like they're asking him like, how would someone do this? And the guy like looks up at the box, like, get a job at Vericom, and they're like, yeah. I just thought it was hilarious that he's saying this as like this witty joke.
But you never know, because sometimes, and the fact that we touched on how they might just pull people in, it could just be some random person. I'll give you a quick story. I was filming a commercial. It was a pretty big commercial with J-Lo, and there's a lot of downtime, so I'm like talking to a couple of the other people, extras, whatever, and my role is one of the main roles, and I'm talking to this guy. He kind of looks like a biker, whatever. So we're just kind of chatting throughout the night, and turns out he's the cellmate in the movie Law Abiding Citizen with Gerard Butler, the dude who gets stabbed in the neck. He's like this jack biker dude with tattoos. His name's Reno. Super cool dude. Was telling me he was on that set doing extra work, and they just pulled him out of the crowd. Like, dude, we love your look. And he actually had quite a few lines in that movie, if you recall. Oh, so sometimes they might just pull you, and you're not prepared for it, and then you have Vericom guy just going over the top with it.
Imagine if you're a Vericom guy and they're like, dude, you have the perfect look for a guy that hangs up lines all over the city. Like, if we're gonna just say a couple lines,
wouldn't be surprised.
And then, and then it cuts to Dino's face, and FBI tells him to get subpoenas working on the Vericom workers. And Dino just has the best face in this movie, where he just looks like a smug prick. And like, I already knew that. Or like, we're really going to catch these assholes now.
His facial expressions rule in this movie. Not going to lie. I don't know who that actor is, but it's good. They got this.
He's in a bunch of things. Like all small roles and things,
Yeah. But you're right. Him and FBI are just John Hamm. They're so angry throughout this movie, like over the top angry. I mean, I guess with John Hamm, it's kind of sold as, because later we'll touch on it in the interview scene where he's like coming at Affleck pretty hard, but it's for him, he's just angry because he hates these townies, right? And he knows that once they cross the bridge to get in Charleston, they'll cover for each other, right? They'll have alibis for each other. I think the opening scene when there's a robbery, it's like, you're not going to get anyone to admit anything, right? Mm-hmm. So he hates that aspect of it, right? Where Dino, I think it's just the actor. This guy's just over the top making these insane faces, but it definitely rules.
FBI lived in a small town himself, and he said to himself, I'm going to make it out of this town.
I'm not going to become a lifer. Simple as. Not being a damn lifer.
The next scene, it goes to, just really incredible scene here where Ben Affleck, Dougie, finds out Claire is getting harassed by lifers in her neighborhood, so he goes to his friend Jem to help beat them up.
Oh yeah.
And it's just an ultimate bro scene here. The ultimate no questions asked, help your friend scene. You show up to my house like, we got to hurt some people. I'm immediately saying, whose car are we taking?
Whose car we taking?
Right? I just love it. He pauses and goes like, whose car are we going to take? And meaning he's on board, and he's already thinking, how can we get away with this? He's so devoted to Doug that he's just like, all right, let's do it.
I think it's that the blind faith, and it's just about him, and he's a reactionary character, right? Mm-hmm. There's another really cool part where it's, if you recall the actual, when they rough these dudes up, Jem goes over to the guy because he's watching Doug beat this dude's ass, and he's so emotional about it that even though Jem is a dumb character, he stops himself and he's like, why is this guy so pissed off? Right? He's kind of taken aback because Doug is so angry, and he's never seen him this way, at least recently. Mm-hmm. So he goes up to the guy. He's like, hey, he like hits him on the head with the baton. He's like, that's my brother right there. What'd you do to piss him off so much, huh? What'd you do to ruffle his feathers? And the guy's like, oh, chill. He's like, don't tell me to chill. And he just shoots him in the leg. So it's like, he's smart enough to think that through and try to figure out what was going on. But then 2 seconds later, he just shoots the guy in the leg because he told him to chill. It's like, Renner's character is so funny.
This is like a line we say all the time in the office, where someone will come up and say about their day, and some driver will come up and say an account was like giving them a rough time. And you immediately say, like, whose car are we taking? Like,
whose car are we taking?
Implying we're about to drive over that account right now and rough these dudes up.
Yeah, it's such a great line. It's such a great scene. But yeah, it just builds between the two characters.
It's funny because Doug is over this life, but he gets so fired up to hurt these people because the new X Factor, his girl that he's dating, says that she got bottles thrown at her or something.
That's my girlfriend.
Basically bullied by these random ruffians. And then immediately changes course once he sees Jem shooting a guy in the leg. Right. He says on the car ride back, like, I can't be up there killing people. And Jem's like, that's why you brought me.
Exactly, yeah.
And he makes a decision, like, right there. Like, I think I'm done with this guy.
Yeah.
He's too unhinged.
That's a good point.
But does every guy just have this fantasy of doing some kind of violent shit to help their friend?
I think so.
Yeah. Like, if you would not just randomly assault people. No. But if your friend was like, hey, dude, we got to rough these people up. You're like,
whose car are we taking?
Now I can unleash the inner violence that's been like brewing for like 30 years.
It's very primal, very primal.
Yeah. So yeah, incredible scene there. Whose car? Next scene here is FBI briefing on the FBI crew on the FBI crew on the crew, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the
FBI talk to me about this FBI crew that they pan to and show at the briefing room. What a group, man! Holy cow! Just
not the best
casting
looking FBI group. Kind of just looks like a bunch of random people.
It's pretty.
Bunch of amateurs. Some dudes they found off the street. They're like, "Hey, we need to do a scene where you guys are FBI agents.
Just sit on it. Just sit on it.
Just need you to sit on this table." They say Albert McGlone, only guy in Boston named Albert McGlone.
Albert McGlone, just the best character name in the movie. Only in Boston, we see a guy named Albert McGlone.
And then they're talking about all the lifers, how they're all connected, and they go, "Need a fucking Venn diagram for these people."
Yeah, the Venn diagram I use to this day, just in casual conversation, like, oh, you need a Venn diagram for that. But another thing too, it cuts to after this is like Doug's drip in this movie is so powerful. This guy is constantly rocking some Boston sports team branded jumpsuit, And if not that, it's an Adidas one.
Mhm.
And this is like, it works because it's 2010, but it dates this movie because it's like, look at this guy's outfits, man. At the time, they were cool.
Were they strong in 2010?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. That fit just goes hard for Doug. But there's a scene after this where Doug and Claire, it establishes where he stashes the money for her at the end, but it's in a little garden that she has, right? And they're having this little heart-to-heart moment. Again, he's wearing just a tracksuit jacket, looking very 2010. And he's talking about his dad and how his mom left, and, you know, he's telling the story about his dad when he was younger. And I've used this monologue when I started acting. You know what I mean? You have to randomly do monologues for auditions or whatever. It can be your own stuff. And I've used it a couple times, and it's just like a really, really good monologue. Affleck kills it in this monologue, but it kind of establishes the relationship that you see later when it cuts to his dad in prison, which is a phenomenal scene. Maybe the scene in the movie. In fact, let's talk about that.
Yeah, next scene, Doug, he visits his dad in prison. Unbelievable, quotable scene here. Chris Cooper plays Doug's dad, gives an incredible performance. So powerful, yeah, I'd say he almost steals the movie.
Yeah. With
this 5-minute scene. This is Chris Cooper, he deserves a spot in the pantheon of incredible slight facial tics that convey unbelievable amounts of emotion.
Right.
He's basically, you know, Doug's asking him about his mom, that in his mind, his dad told him she went missing and never came back.
Right.
And then he's wondering, why didn't you look for her? Implying he already knew she wasn't like coming back. She was dead.
Right.
He's not going to come out and say that, but that's what he's implying. His facial tics are like, oh, Jesus, kid, I got to have you bothering me with this again. Like, he's in prison and this, you know, his son's bothering him with this.
Right.
And he doesn't want to admit to his son what actually happened.
Well,
so he says all this with his face.
Yeah, no, you're right. He absolutely kills it. Even like taking off his glasses and kind of like rubbing his eyes, you can just tell. But I think it's a testament of him being a great dad because, you know, piggybacking onto what I said about that monologue earlier about explaining and describing his dad in this whole scene. It's basically Chris Cooper being, you know, a phenomenal dad because he's protecting his son's image of his mom, right? His entire life, right? He hasn't figured this out yet, what really happened to his mom. And then finally he's just like, you think she was an angel? Go ahead. But look out your front door. And he just describes, she's just another lifer, dude. She's just another lifer. She's nothing special. She was a druggie and she died. I don't know. Was she OD? I don't even remember. Did she OD or something? She hung herself.
Yeah. Hung herself after being drugged up.
So yeah, aside from being in prison for armed robbery, he's a pretty good dad.
Well, there's that, yeah. And then he finishes it off. That's the hard truth.
That's the hard truth. I made my peace with it. Now you make yours. Yeah, it's such a great line. It's just.
And then he gets up, and he kind of is real pissed that he has to lie to his son again. Huh? So he like kicks the door open, and he's all pissed. And Ben Affleck's just looking at him. It doesn't say anything. It's just like, I can't believe, because Ben Affleck knows pretty much now. He's not an idiot. He just wanted to see if his dad would tell him or not.
Right.
And he's kind of flabbergasted that he wouldn't.
Yeah.
Even though he's making it abundantly clear that he already knows.
Yeah.
And
phenomenal scene.
You know.
But there is a scene, I don't know if we touched on it, but it's where it's revealed that Jem, it's where they're having margarita pizza, if you recall. And it's revealed that Jem is friends with Doug or whatnot. And it's revealed that also Doug and Claire are a little more on a personal level. So then they go back to the apartment, Jem and Doug, and they start flipping out. And Jem's freaking out on him, saying about how he's sleeping with the girl from the bank robbery. And it's another funny line where he's like, I don't like the gods on the next thing. Because Jem's, he's pushing him. When are we going to do the next thing? When are we going to do the next thing? And he's like, I don't like the gods on the next thing. And he's describing it. And then he's like, then we wait for the next job. Where the god's a fucking fat kid with his shit untucked, doesn't think he's special forces. It's just always such a funny line to me.
Jem already coming up with another job.
Yeah.
Already, they got the heat on him already from robbing a bank.
Exactly. Yeah. This
dude's trying to get another job going because the florist gives him one. And it's like, bro, you have a death wish or something? Do you want to die? That's what he's thinking at this point, probably. Yep. So, Doug's hesitations towards this job, whether they're warranted or not,
he's like, dude,
he doesn't want to do this stuff anymore.
He's like, chill out. You're going to end up back in prison or you're going to be dead. But his character, Jem, is just so insane that he just has no chill. He can't take his foot off the gas.
Right. He's all gas, no brakes. He's suicidal, yep. I would say. He has no life. He went to prison for 9 years or whatever it was.
All he gives a shit about is Coke and Xbox.
He gets out. He's 9 years older, and his sister has a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Doug's got his whatever. He's got a job, and he's just some crumb that has nothing.
Right.
And all he has is doing heists because he hates cops. He loves violence, and he's traumatized. And now it's like, yeah, dude, I want to do another heist. And so Doug's a little bit past over this whole situation now at this point. But they wind up he's like, you know what? All right, whatever, man. If this goes bad, it's on you.
Yeah, he says it's on you, right? Yep. Yeah.
And it does go bad because the guy does try to be a hero that Ben Affleck correctly predicted would happen. And they're getting away. And I just always, I thought it was interesting, they get out of this Dodge Caravan that they're driving in. They're zipping around these corners. McGlunzy just going wild, zipping around these corners.
He's driver from drive.
They get out. He is literally driver from drive. He's arguably a better driver. They come out and just have automatic weapons and they're just shooting at the cops' engine blocks. They're not shooting at the cops.
Mm-hmm.
But they're unloading a whole mag or two because it keeps the cops behind the cars behind cover. So they're not shooting back.
Right.
And also they're taking out the engine blocks so that the car can't come after them. But it's like, they're not going to shoot the cops because that would be a major charge. If you rob a guy, I don't know, maybe 5 years or whatever, but you'll get out of prison.
Right.
If you start shooting at cops, now you're talking about like 20 plus years. You kill a cop, you're going away forever.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So they're methodical. I mean, he's methodical in the way they're doing stuff.
But good old Jem doesn't care because as soon as he's in the armored truck, and as soon as the guy yells he's like, come out, asshole! I got your buddy. Jem realizes that it's Doug, right? And Doug's like, just put your gun down, man. And as soon as he even says that, Jem hears that it's Doug, just shoots the guy in the neck and the chest immediately, no hesitation, just drops him.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty wild.
Zero hesitation. Boom. Which arguably might be the right move in that situation.
Right.
Even though you'll take another charge because the FBI guy threatens him with, if this guy dies, you guys are done for.
Mm-hmm. Well, then they pick up Doug, and is this the first time that him and FBI interact?
Yeah.
FBI says something to the effect of, "You and your boys didn't just roll a style market over a Malden for a box of quarters. Now you decided to bang it out in the North End at 9:00 in the middle of the morning with assault rifles, right?" So, this is like a real cool scene because, you got the two of them going back and forth. And the FBI says, Yeah, so the cop that they shot is basically clinging on to for life, right? He's like, if it were up to me, I'd personally asphyxiate the guy so they could string Doug up on a federal charges. And like the best part is Affleck's just kind of hunched over in his seat and he looks up at him with his eyebrows raised like, what, dude?
Yeah, it's like
so good.
like I was listening to you and I was kind of just taking this in, but
And
you just kind of went over the like beyond what I was expecting here. Touche.
Right. Yeah, it's a good scene though, the interview scene where they first meet. But yeah, it just goes to show FBI's hatred for these people, let alone the ringleader that they finally, because they didn't know who it was. Now they finally do, right? So it's like,
Now they
I
have the whole
see
crew.
this guy. Yeah, I want to see this dude. You know, and aside from the fact they just killed a cop, right? So,
well, that's it. Yeah, that if he was dead, it would be like they'd have extra. They'd have more FBI powers to go arrest him if they killed a cop. But because the guy's still alive, they have to kind of play by the rules and gather more evidence.
Mm-hmm.
So like they have a ton of heat on him at this point, and it's almost unbelievable to think that Jem comes up to Doug and is like, "We got another heist. The florist came through." They're like, "What, dude?" So like at this point, Doug and Jem, they meet at the cemetery where Jem tells him this, and Doug's just like, "Yeah, dude, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm over this." Incredible scene with just unbelievable quotable lines in crazy Boston accents.
You want to see me again? Come visit me in Florida. Yeah, this scene is pretty wild, but it's been brewing all movie, right? It finally comes to a head, right? Where Jem's coming at him. It's like, you've been judgy since you've been a new man. You think you're better than everyone. They fight it out. And effectively, Doug says, I'm leaving, right? So if you're going to shoot me in the back. Which is pretty powerful, so.
But you find out that the reason that he went to prison for 9 years was because he went to go defend Doug from some guy that wanted to kill him, whose name was Brendan Leahy.
Brendan Leahy. So we
got a guy.
Yeah.
We got a guy named Leahy at work, and every time he comes in and talks to us, we just hit him with a couple of these lines from this scene.
Like, what, dude? What are you talking about? They told me Brendan Leahy was coming down to roll up in you with a Glock 9, so I came by and I put him in the ground. Yeah, dude, it's so good. Talk to me about the florist scene, though.
Yes, Doug's made his decision here. He says, I'm leaving. The hell with this. Like, I don't care what's happening. Like, goes to the florist. The florist is the guy that sets up all these jobs. He gets the information from people, and you give him a percentage of the stuff that you take, the money that you get, right? So Doug goes in and he tells him, look, against my better judgment, he gives him a package of money just to smooth things over because he's not doing the job. And the florist, incredible line. He goes, you think I'm going to put Joe Flipperhead on this?
Exactly.
Like, where have you ever heard Joe Flipperhead before? Where'd they come up with that line?
Dude, so good. You're a unit. He's like, what does he say? You're a unit. I wouldn't hire you without them, and I wouldn't hire them without you.
It just comes back to Affleck's face, and like he's got this like rage face, but like just can't believe what he's hearing. Like, let me ask you a question. Who the fuck do you think you are? Think you're the only guy in Charlestown with a gun?
555 Bunker Hill Street. Yeah, no, it's a pretty powerful scene. And then it's funny too because you're talking about little slight facial gestures. Doug finally works up the courage to call out the florist, right? And he basically threatens him. And florist he takes his knife. If you notice this, and he it's like a flip blade. He puts it back in and then crosses his arms and just like kind of sinks his head a little bit. Cause he's like, this guy's going to threaten me. I already know where this is going. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? I'm the florist, dude.
Mm.
Right? So then he explains how, his dad worked for him for years and,
I love the way he says that. He goes, son, I knew your daddy. He worked for me for years. Yeah.
years. Nah, it's great because then he explains what happened to his mom. But yeah, no, it's a very powerful scene,
He threatens, so the way he gets Doug to work for him is he threatens Claire, his new girlfriend.
Right.
At the same time of being like, by the way, I was the one that gave drugs to your mom and got her all doped up and got your dad to work for me one last job, which sent him to prison.
Yep.
Like all this hits him at once. And by the way, now that you just gave me your address, I know where you live now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's threatening his girlfriend now. And so it basically, it cut. This isn't in the theatrical release, but he goes back to Claire afterwards because he thinks this guy like threatened her or whatever. And by the time that this happened, FBI showed up and gave Claire the pictures of the suspects, including Doug. So she knows that he was the one that robbed the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And they get in an argument, Claire and Doug, and Doug has to leave because she's like flipping out, like, don't touch me, get out of here, right? Doug leaves. This is unbelievable. I didn't know this was a scene. This is a deleted scene, I guess.
Has
not
to be
theatrical.
Has to be.
Doug goes and buys some Coke,
relapses,
and walks to an abandoned train and relapses by like snorting Coke, and then he waits till a train goes by so it cuts the noise and just starts shooting off rounds.
Yeah, he unloads a clip at like random like beer bottles on the abandoned train. It's the most insane clip. If you can find it, watch it, because
it changes the character.
You can, it's a reason they took it out, because Doug's character is stoic throughout the whole movie, right? He does no wrong. He's Mr. They probably watched it back and he's thinking to himself, this is so dumb. We can't have this character relapse. It's just ridiculous, but it's just so funny.
So then it cuts to the next scene. Doug, at this point, is like, "Yeah, I'm in." Doug and Jen start discussing the heist and are getting prepared for it. And Jen, his expertise, of course, is the guns. So he's sitting in the table cleaning all the guns. And he says like a line about how people in prison talk about wanting to get out. They don't really mean it,
right?
And he mentions a great line. Mentions if they get jammed up out there, he's holding court on the street,
which he does.
Meaning he's completely committed to not going back to prison, and he'll just have a shootout with the cops and do a suicide by cop if need be. Right. He's not going back to prison.
Pretty
very
wild.
based.
Yeah.
But I like that line. Just we're holding court on the street.
Yeah, and which they do. Which, the most wild scene is when he pulls at the Tech 9 and starts shooting at FBI. He ends up getting lit up, and he's sitting behind like a newspaper stand or something. And I always call it the sip of destiny, because there's like a random cup of soda or something on his side, and I guess he's like shot up, and I don't know if he's just like so thirsty or something, because he's like losing a ton of blood. He just grabs this little cup and just takes his little sippy. It's like
he thinks this is my last.
Yeah, I guess
this is my last drink.
Right.
I always think to myself, what's in that cup? Yeah. I want to believe it's grape soda.
Grape soda. Yeah. Why not?
I don't know why, but when I first saw it, I was like, I think that's grape soda.
It would be very refreshing. I know that. Yeah, I mean, and the last scene is like basically you have the robbery of Fenway, which, they kind of that unravels very, very well shot. If I recall, they had to wait because I think the Red Sox were in season, so I had to wait till they're on like a long road stretch in order to film it. And just some of the gunfire you see in the bottom of Fenway, like against the walls, and the bullet holes is so well done. It looks it's a real cool shot, action shot.
Great acoustics too.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a forgettable heist scene. I don't know. McGlonesy gets shot up because he tries to drive out and they light him up. It's just,
The only thing that I really like is it has the idea of going in as cops.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Then they're gonna leave as ambulance people.
It's a proper
But then
heist.
they that idea of like, we're gonna go in as cops and use a costume, and then use another costume that's under it.
We just
to
walked
avoid
past Mike.
suspicion.
We just walked past Mike. He let us in. Yeah, and that's another one where those guys try to stop him. Those are townies, dude. Those aren't actors. I don't think so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they put them on the ground. They put their hands behind their back or whatever, and they get in the cash room.
They go to the
Regardless.
cash room. They got the husbands of the two Lindas.
The Lindas want you to open the door. Another one that I think you brought up to me was, whatever, Doug gets away with the money, yada, 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 right? She proves her loyalty to Doug and tells him not to come by his place. But Doug leaves to go down to Florida. And I think you mentioned this to me the other day. He takes a bus in the theatrical movie, right? But a train in the extended version. Is that correct?
Yeah. Oh, I believe so, because they make a point to show that he gets the uniform of like his uncle.
Right.
Who, in the theatrical version, I remember him taking a bus and driving that out.
I'm certain he took a bus.
Meaning his uncle was a bus driver for the city. And so why would they have him get that bus uniform and then just have him go on a train in this version? Reason I bring that up, because they mention when he doesn't show up at Claire's apartment, FBI says, I want to go to the train stations and the airport and everything. Let's look for this guy, assuming he's leaving the area or whatever, right? So if he's leaving on a train, it was like, presumably there'd be FBI agents there looking for him.
Yep.
But leaving by bus in the theatrical version makes way more sense and is way more stealthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't really catch that, but so then our boy Dougie gets all the way down to Florida. He's got a nice little piece of land on the bayside.
He's growing himself a beard.
Waiting on his dame to come down and soak up the Florida sun rays with him. And that's their movie.
He's in the funny thing too is like, he's in Florida. It's like, dude, I think they'll be able to find you in Florida.
Dude, yeah. I wouldn't even touch on that because it's so insane. They're gonna find you, dude. FBI's gonna find you.
Like, these are unbelievable. This is top 10 most wanted list, FBI.
Yeah, dude. You can get away with
major felonies.
Exactly. You can get away with it in Charleston because you have that safety net, right? Of people.
Right.
You're you know the area, you know how to get away, but yeah, you're in a whole new area. They're gonna find you. You're still domestic.
Yeah. King, tell me your kino rating for this movie.
Kino rating for this movie, I'm going to give it a 7.7. 7.7. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 7.7. I think it's really well written. Good storyline. I think it holds up even though it's 2010. But yeah, I think the best part of it is the funny quotable lines for me.
Mm-hmm.
That Chris Cooper scene steals the show. But yeah, I'll give it a firm 7.7.
Okay, we're on the same page. I'll give it an 8. I love heist movies. I think this is one of the last bro movies. I can't even remember movies after this that are bro movies. But I love a heist movie. This is also a good movie with good writing, good dialogue, and a great plot.
Yeah, I agree.
There you have it, 8. And folks, that brings us to the end of the episode. The Town.
2010. Catch you on the next one.
See ya.